Hey guys, Ascending God here and below. Here with Raid Shadow Legends doing the fusion for the latest champion here, Harvest Jack, for the fusion event. So he's fairly recent. There's a week and 3 days left. I'm finishing this pretty early into it, but I had a lot of the champions that were needed down here to get these epics, and then I just got this epic from, I just did actually a video of this previously. If you haven't seen it, I opened like, I think it was like 83 ancient shards, and yeah, so I got an epic, nothing that great. It was that Sartorsis or whatever his name is. Anyway, but I'm not going to really use him for much anything beyond Fashion Wars. But regardless, I got enough to where I got her, maxed her out real quick. I already had all the potions I needed, had a bunch of champions to max her out, so I got everybody here. So figured I'd go ahead and just put this on video for any of you that aren't going to fuse them. You can see what it looks like, how this type of fusion thing works at least. And I'm going to touch on him, so in case you are working on him, I did do a little bit of a review on him already, but I've had a little bit more information about him. So I'm going to talk a little bit about him. Let's do this fusion first here. So got each champion. Now with each of these champions, you have to do all the ascensions and get up to the level that's on here. So regretfully, you have to put a lot of potions into all these champions. It took a lot of effort, a lot of farming to get those other champions up to where they needed to be. Farming for potions, and then leveling the champions up. It's a lot of energy. I started with like 4,000 something gems, let me put it that way. And most of the gems that I lost were just farming to get him. But he's a really cool looking champion, so I wanted to get him. So here we go, guys. You ready? So the fusion's ready. I got all four of them picked. You see all four of them are green, which means they're good to go. This lit up, which means it is ready for the fusion here. So here we go. And 1 million coins. Yeah, fusions are very expensive. This is what happened with Molly too. The time I went to do it with Molly, I realized I was short of the coins. Fortunately, I got 10 million, so I do have enough, but it's 1 million coins. So in case you are looking to do this soon, remember that too. You're going to have 1 million coins. A lot of freaking coins. So here we go. I'll light up. Boom. Boom. Ooh, and plus 500 points for the event too. Cool. I still have things that I need to earn in that, so that's all the better. I forgot about that. Look at this guy. He's friggin' awesome looking. This guy is just a friggin' beast here. So yeah, so Harvest Jack, he's not the most amazing champion yet. They might buff him because he does seem really, really underpowered right now. Like you can even see from his reviews here, like 4, 4.1, 4.2, 3.5. Like his reviews are not very good. And even though the fact that he looks really cool. Now, the reason is because he hits like a wet noodle, regretfully. His skills are okay. They're decent. They're not amazing, but they're decent. But, yeah, he hits like a wet noodle. I saw somebody with, like, amazing gear on him. Like, I'm talking, like, 230% crit damage, almost 100% crit rate. It was like 96% crit rate, so he was pretty much critting all the time. And he was saying even with that, he was only getting, like, the maximum that he saw was like about a 30,000 damage crit. That's crazy. 30,000 at 230 something percent, and he had his hit points at like 72,000 or 71,000, something like that. It was really freaking high. He's a hit point based champion, so his damage scales off of hit points. It's just he scales really low. It's what's called a multiplier. He has a very, very low multiplier, so he doesn't scale well. So anyway, but hopefully they're going to buff it eventually later on, because I mean, with how underpowered he is, like, you know, crits that low, I can't imagine them not buffing him, especially with how many people are going to be furious over it once they earn him and they're like, I spent X amount of gems getting this guy, and, you know, I'm getting 30,000, you know, crit at best when I put that same gear on Big Un and get like 90,000. I mean, come on. So, and but anyway, so let me look through his skills here, show you his skills as well now. So that's the biggest issue with him currently, is the fact that he does not hit hard no matter how much hit points you put on him and how much crit damage. But this here is kind of cool. This is when he's attacked, it decreases the duration of all buffs on the attacker by 1 turn. So if enemies have an AoE attack, This reduces the duration of their buffs by a turn, so that's pretty cool. Or if they do a single target attack on them, decreases their buffs by a turn. So that's a pretty cool passive ability, because that's just a passive. That's not even an ability that you use. It's just when you get hit, it decreases their buffs. So that's pretty cool, and that'd especially be useful against bosses, because you see bosses aren't immune to this. So especially in faction wars, when you're going up against those bosses that are buffing themselves, or when the bosses have those allies next to them that put buffs on them, it'll reduce the duration by a turn. And if it doesn't reduce it, he has another ability too, which is really cool. So I'll show you that in a second. But other ability here is A3, attacks all enemies. And we're going to look at the maximum buff chance, because really, ultimately, you want to max him out. So at the maximum, he has a 100% chance of placing a True Fear debuff for 1 turn. Now, what the True Fear is that when the next turn that champion attacks, they'll have a 50% chance of losing their turn and getting their skills put on cooldown. So it is pretty cool. I mean, it is a huge disadvantage. The problem is it's only a 50% chance. There's also a 50% chance that they'll come at you full force and that the True Fear does nothing. So that's one of the things that's kind of frustrating about that, is that True Fear does have a 50-50 chance of doing nothing at all. And so if you have some bad luck and you only end up placing True Fear, like say it gets resisted on a couple of enemies and only gets placed on 2 of them, if you have bad luck, those 2 could come at you full force and True Fear was worthless. So that's, you gotta be careful of. It is a gamble. But when it does work, it's amazing, because if it does work, they lose their entire turn. It's not like a provoke where they're still coming at you with their A1. They don't attack you with anything. And then on top of that, they lose their cooldowns, because the next turn their cooldowns are all on all basically locked down. So that's really cool. And then it also places a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, and decreases each target's turn meter by 15% if the True Fear debuff is placed, which at 100%, most of the time you're going to place it unless it gets resisted. So as long as it doesn't get resisted, you have enough accuracy, it gets placed on an enemy, you're going to get True Fear, you're going to get 30% decreased speed, and you're going to reduce their turn meter by 15%. That's pretty good. I mean, the True Fear itself isn't astounding, but you're reducing their turn meters, which is pretty cool. It slows the enemy down. Decrease speed by 30%. That's a huge speed decrease, so that's pretty solid too. And then on top of that, if it does get resisted, you still have a 100% chance of placing a sleep debuff for 1 turn if it doesn't get placed. So originally I thought this didn't make much sense. So I'm like, well, if you end up not placing the True Fear, like you basically, once you max out your skills, you have a 100% chance of placing True Fear. So I'm like, you're never going to place a sleep again. It's not true though. I wasn't thinking about the fact that if you get resisted, so if your True Fear gets resisted, the really cool thing about him, and this is kind of what makes him even more useful and makes him a little bit better than I thought he originally was. I originally thought he was complete garbage, and I'm just like, that sucks. Like, I'm like, he's okay. He's kind of a cool concept. Might be alright for faction wars, but anywhere else, no. But he's actually pretty decent, because you got this True Fear. Now, other than the fact, I shouldn't say he's decent. Let me correct myself. With the way he hits right now and his lack of damage, he's not that decent. If they fix his damage issue, then he'll be decent, because his skills are fairly decent. I mean, they're not amazing. They're not like a top tier legendary, but they're decent. So he's not a garbage legendary, I can tell you that. So at least not fully. The damage thing is a huge issue. But anyway, so what happens here is, even if you have that 100% chance, you max out your skills, yes, there's a 100% chance of placing this, but again, it could get resisted. But the really cool thing about him, and this is where I'm saying this makes him a little more valuable, is that even if this True Fear gets resisted, then the next thing he's going to try to place is the sleep. So you have 2 different debuffs that he's going to try to place on a champion. So even if you get resisted, there's still a chance you're going to put a sleep on the champion, and unless that gets resisted too. But if you have a high amount of accuracy, it's not a very good chance that you're going to have 2 different debuffs resisted consecutively. So most likely, if you don't place the True Fear on the enemy, you're most likely going to place the sleep on them at least. So that's really cool. And sleep isn't amazing. The thing that I don't like about sleep, for those of you who don't know, it's not as good as daze. With daze, the person loses the turn. With sleep, they lose their turn if they manage to go through that full turn meter without getting hit. The problem is that if a champion has sleep on them and they take any damage before that whole turn is up, it'll wake them up for that turn. And so the sleep was worthless. That's the only thing that sucks about sleep, is especially if you have a lot of champions with a lot of AoE damage, they can easily knock that sleep off before the champion gets a full turn. Especially when it comes to, you guys know, like usually your champions are a lot faster than the enemies. So, including bosses. So with that said though, like a lot of times you're going to get multiple turns before the sleep, which means that a lot of times your other champions are going to knock the sleep off the enemy. But in case they don't, like if it's, say it's like later on into the turn where your champion's AoE damage is on cooldown, so you're using your A1s, your A2s, they're not AoEs, then there is a chance you could play sleep on champions that are not going to get knocked off of them before the turn is up. So it could be useful for longer fights, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Now the A2, it's pretty cool. It's not amazing. It's pretty cool. It's an interesting concept. I'll give it that. It attacks all enemies, places a block buffs debuff for 2 turns on targets under fear debuffs. Now, I've not confirmed this. I had heard originally from somebody who had them, they claimed that this was not working from True Fear. So if you used his True Fear, originally they were claiming it wasn't putting the block buffs up. I've heard since then from other people that it does work on True Fear. The problem is though, a lot of people are having a hard time testing it because the problem is that True Fear only lasts 1 turn. So the thing that sucks about that is that with the True Fear, most likely that champion's going to lose it, and it's either going to trigger the True Fear and lock their skills on cooldown, or it's going to end up doing nothing before you get a chance to do the A2. But if he's really fast, if you've slowed the enemy down beforehand, it's a longer fight, maybe he did the decreased speed on them with the A3 already, then you might have a chance of overlapping this True Fear with this one here. And in that case, from what I've heard now, supposedly this does work with True Fear as well. And this is a block buffs debuff. So that's pretty cool. Again, it's not the most amazing, but it's fairly cool for like faction wars. It could be useful in arena. Now, this also is interesting because it removes any increased attack buffs and it replaces them with a decreased attack debuff. Removes any continuous heals and it replaces it with a poison. So basically does the opposite. Like if you've become stronger from a buff, from an increased attack, now you're going to get weakened, and like by a decreased attack. And now if you have a heal that's supposed to be regenerating you, now you're going to have something that's going to deteriorate you, a poison. So it's cool that he flip-flops all that and turns your own buffs against you. I think it's a really cool concept. The only thing that sucks is that increased attack and continuous heal is just 2 of many buffs out there. There's a lot of other buffs that he doesn't do anything to. So he's very, very situational in that regard. But a lot of people use increased attack in arena. They either use increased attack, they use defense down, they use weaken, they use a combination of a few of those things. So in arena, this could end up being useful. But the thing is that more likely than not, the biggest thing in arena is just being fast and attacking first. And so I don't think Harvest Jack is going to really, honestly, I think he's going to be complete garbage in arena just because he lacks damage. So he just doesn't have the damage to really hurt the enemy that much. And if they buff his damage, then I think he could be awesome in arena, because then even if the enemy goes first, you have some really strong things to come at them with afterwards. And especially since he's a hit point champion, he's going to be hard to kill. But in his current state, he's not going to be good in arena, I guarantee it, because he's not going to hit hard enough. So anyway, but this is a really cool concept, like I said, and it could be useful. It could be really useful in faction wars, I think, especially against the bosses. I think Harvest Jack is going to be amazing against the bosses in faction wars. And then even on the trash, he's going to do decent too because of those True Fears and everything else. But I think he's going to be good altogether for faction wars. I think he has some good things for the trash with the True Fear, the slowing down, the decreased turn meters, things like that. I think this is going to work really well for the bosses. The passive is really cool altogether to make people lose their buffs. That's a really cool concept. The A1 here is also pretty decent because it attacks one enemy 3 times, which means he could work with Giant Slayer. I don't know because each of these are 1 hit, so it's kind of iffy as far as if you want to put Giant Slayer on him or not. But if you did, this attacks an enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 25% chance of stealing a random buff from the target. This is what I was talking about earlier, about where he has this that could remove the buffs, but I said he also has something else. So, you got this that'll decrease the duration of the buffs by 1 turn on the enemy, but you also have this chance to steal it. And since we're talking about skill ups here, at max skills, he has a 35% chance of stealing a random buff from the target. That's a pretty good chance. I mean, that's more than a 1 in 3 chance. So, he has 3 hits, and each hit has a chance to do that. So, there's a good chance that every single turn when he uses his A1 that he's going to steal a buff. It's a pretty decent chance there. So, I mean, really it should, like, you're looking at, what, 105% total, so 35 times 3. I mean, I don't know how many people are really going to max his skills out, though. I mean, if you don't have many legendaries that are that great, I think it's worth maxing him out. If you already have a solid foundation, but he's okay. Like I said, he's a mediocre legendary. He's an okay legendary. He's like maybe a little above average. I guess, yeah, it's definitely above average, but he's not even close to God tier. I would say he's borderline good tier. But anyway, now each hit also has a 25% chance of placing the fear if the target has no active buffs. So this could also work in conjunction with this A2 when this gets triggered. So, like, this is where, like, for longer term fights, this would be more effective because you're going to be placing more fears out there on champions from this if they have no active buffs. And, you know, a lot of times the enemies don't have many active buffs on them, but if they do have active buffs, you're going to start stealing them from them, which is really cool. And especially in Faction Wars, I find in the higher levels, there does tend to be quite a few buffs out there on the enemies. So I think that's why I think they kind of did design him for Faction Wars in mind, because it seems like a lot of his abilities seem like they'll function really well in Faction Wars. Problem is that with and then the chance increase to 100% if all buffs are stolen from the target. That's really cool too, where it's a 100% chance to do it if the enemy has no buffs. So that means, like, every single hit, like, you're going to be putting a fear on the enemy, which is awesome. So that's pretty cool too. And since everything is hit point based, that is cool, that where you get to give him the extra hit points for survival. But like I said, the problem currently is he does not scale well, so he's not going to hit hard no matter how much you buff him up. So that kind of sucks, but who knows down the road what'll happen to him. I mean, I got him because I figured I already had so many of the champions already. Like, yeah, that was a lot of gems to spend on him, but like I said, he looks really cool. I absolutely love Halloween. I mean, look at these, he's got heads all over his chest. It's friggin' awesome. Like little mini heads, shrunken heads here. It's a cool pumpkin head type of dude. He has a glowing sigh. I mean, I think he was cool enough to at least earn him. So like I said, who knows what'll happen to him down the road. I mean, look at Dracomorph. Dracomorph used to be a trash legendary, and then not too long ago they buffed him up, and now he's one of the best champions for Clan Boss. So you never know. I mean, who knows what'll happen to Harvest Jack down the road. It's like I said, I think with how many people are going to be getting him, I think there's going to be so many complaints that I think Plarium is going to be really hard pressed to not improve his damage. But we'll see. But that's all that I got for now, guys. I wanted to just kind of, you know, show you the fusion in case you're not doing it. If you are doing it, be ready for that 1 million coins. Don't forget. He's not a particularly amazing champion. If you haven't heard yet, I figured I'd let you guys know too. Like I said, no matter how much you gear him up, he does not hit that hard. I think that is the biggest reason why his ratings here are not that great. And for Clan Boss, he's just, no, he doesn't have anything to bring to the table for Clan Boss that makes any sense. You can't put true fear on the boss. I mean, it doesn't work. So anyway, but I don't think you can put true fear on bosses either. Like, I don't know. I know you can't do it for Clan Boss. I think you can't do it for bosses in Faction Wars either. That's one thing that would kind of suck there too. Like, you'll do it to the boss's allies, which is cool, but even his other abilities will be good on the boss, because you can put a block buffs on the boss and you can steal the buffs from the boss. So even though the true fear probably won't get placed on the bosses in Faction Wars, these other two abilities will come in really useful, stealing their buffs from them. If they don't have any, usually the boss has buffs on them, so like usually there'll be something to steal. But anyway, but that's all that I got for now, guys. So hope this was informative to you. If you didn't know too much about Harvest Jack, now you know. Like I said, his abilities could be fun in Arena. Like if you want somebody just to play with, just to have fun, and you have some really solid champions for Arena already, and so you don't mind playing with somebody that might get you a loss here or there because they weren't quite good enough, and you have other champions that can carry him, I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to play with him in Arena. So, I mean, I'll do some videos of it. I'll show you guys what he does in Arena. And I'm going to try to load him up with some decent hit point gear. I'm going to put crit rate on him, but I'm going to load him up, other than that, with as much hit points as I can. I'm going to gear him to the teeth with hit points. It's going to be ridiculous. So, we'll see what happens, though. I'll show you him in action so you can see firsthand from my videos, like, how much damage he actually does with X amount of gear. I'll show you his stats, show you what he does in Arena, and we'll see what happens. So anyway, but that's all that I got for now, guys. Definitely be putting him into action soon. I'm not going to max out his skills. That's one thing that I won't be doing. I'm not putting tombs into him because I don't see him as worth it. I'm sorry, like, if you guys want to see that, I'm not going to do it. I mean, you guys got to consider here, like, I mean, I got some solid legendaries. I still could build my roster, but I got Arbiter, I got Turbold, who's amazing, I got Altan, Nethrol, Bigon, Dracomorph, Martyr, and then now I got the Pumpkinhead dude. I got other legendaries sitting in my vault that are just collecting dust. I don't use Tomb Lord, I don't use Bystafist, I don't use Inithway. I have not used Molly since I earned her, which is frustrating. I am going to use Pumpkin Jack. Like I said, I'm not going to let this fusion go to waste. I'm going to use him for at least some things, if not anything else to play with in Arena. Just got this dude today. Probably not going to use him for much of anything. But again, I mean, it's cool to have the legendaries because you never know what will happen to them down the road. Like I said, they could get buffed and become more useful. So anyway, so I'm going to start tossing some gear on him. I have quite a bit of gear, as you can see, 489 out of 500. I got a lot of gear, so not much in attack, but I got some solid stuff. I'm going to be able to load him up with accuracy, some speed, some maybe, I'm not going to do lifesteal on him because he hits too weak, but I'm going to see what kind of gear would be worthwhile to put on him, load him up with some gear, maybe put some little glyphs on him here and there and everything, and put him to use. And but I'm going to wait until I max him out. He's going to be the next champion that I'm going to bring up to level 60. So I'm going to bring him up to 60 real quick. Going to put some solid gear on him. Going to max out his masteries over the next day or two. So within the next few days, I should be putting him to use in Arena. So until then, guys, stay tuned. And yeah, that's all that I got for now, though. So like I said, I hope this was informative. If you're trying to get Jack, I hope you got some useful info here. I wish you luck in getting him. Hope it doesn't take you too long. Hope you make it within the deadline. And otherwise, that's all I got for now, guys. So in the meantime, again, I wish you luck. Hope this was useful. And until the next episode, you guys take care.
Hi guys, this is Anthony here, also known on this channel as AscendantGod. Wanted to thank you for checking out my channel here, really appreciate it. Be sure to check out the other videos. I got plenty of goodies on here. Also check out the description sections in the videos. Got plenty of links on there for real different kinds of goodies that I think would be worthwhile for you guys. If there is something in particular that you don't see on my channel that you want to see, be sure to let me know in the comment section as well. And I think that's about it. All I've got. I'm just gonna get back to this thing here. I'm pretty sure if I just...
Oh, we have such sights to show you.
Wow. That's really funny. Same here.